Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Lord of the Flies. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the terrifying character that is Roger. We're going to be thinking about what he represents on the island and how Golding presents and then develops his dark character. I will give you little snippets of context to help you along the way and plenty of key quotes for your flashcards. So let's get started. Okay, so before I start taking you through all of the quotes, I just want to start with, well, why is he on this island? Why did Golding choose to write a character like Roger, someone so kind of above and beyond the darkness of any of the other characters, including Jack? So one thing that we can think about is whether or not Golding was trying to say, look how dark mankind can become. Is this a reflection of man's capacity for true evil? Is Roger a direct representative of what Golding calls mankind's essential illness? Or the disease that is being human, as he mentioned in one of his interviews. Is it also a warning about how cruelty can emerge without rules and order? I'm not saying that the character of Roger didn't have that cruelty within them, but what made that cruelty develop was the removal of all of the boundaries that were put in place in his kind of previous understanding of society and civilization. You take that away and then this cruelty can become unbridled. Let's have a look at some key quotes, tracking our way through the novel to see if we can evidence either of these ideas. Okay, so let's look at the first time we meet Roger, right in chapter 1, where we learn that there was a sly, furtive boy whom no one knew, who kept to himself with an inner intensity of avoidance and secrecy. He muttered that his name was Roger and was silent again. So immediately Golding is foreshadowing here. He's hinting to us. Okay, so the adjective furtive sort of means a little bit sneaky, and there's a kind of isolation surrounding Roger. He keeps himself to himself. Perhaps he doesn't actually make connections with other individuals, which would make sense of this phrase, the inner intensity of avoidance, so keeping away from others, and secrecy. So even though he is quite sort of quiet, we're being told straight away by Golding to watch out for him. Little context point, you'll remember that Golding was a teacher in an all-boys public school, so he, like all teachers, will have met a huge range of children, and it is possible that Golding may have come across children that did seem to have this kind of maybe lack of connection, so he might be drawing upon past knowledge. But this is also really important as well for the early chapters, is because I think some people just immediately think that Roger would have been sort of savage from word go. But actually, Roger is the person that said, let's have a vote. He is the first person that initiated this concept of civilization and democratic rule. And so that is because early Roger is acting upon what he knows. And that is rules, order, and democracy. So he hasn't quite understood what he can get when those are taken away. Now, it's in chapter 4 that these signs of darkness start to emerge. We learn that he and Maurice go down onto the beach, and Roger leads the way straight through the castles, kicking them over, burying the flowers, scattering the chosen stones. So this is an early indication of that kind of bullying behaviour. Golding presents him as someone spoiling the fun of the little ones, and it's fairly sort of standard in this kind of listing of behaviours, knocking down castles, just ruining all of the fun. But it gets a little bit more worrying when he starts throwing the stones at Henry. It's important to notice here that when he throws the stones, he throws them to miss. He aims to miss. It's not that he's trying to hit him. He's trying to toy with him. Interestingly, if you read a few lines before, what triggers this decision is because where he's standing, coconuts fall around him, ... and it's almost like he looks up at this kind of powerful force that is the coconut tree that could have hit him, and then he takes on that role himself. Golding is quick to explain why he doesn't want to hit Henry, and it's not because of any feelings of, oh, I don't want to hurt him. No, it's because the taboo of old life is invisible yet strong. So all of the things from his old life that he was told were forbidden, Yeah, so this is a wonderful metaphorical moment where round the squatting child was the protection of parents and police and school and policemen and the law. It's got this lovely syndetic listing of authority figures here. All of the things, all of the people that impose rules and order, and those things condition Roger's arm. Okay, a civilization that knew nothing of him and was in ruins. This is the great irony here, that what it is that has conditioned Roger to not break the rules and not hurt Henry is a civilization who are currently fighting each other. That's why they are in ruins, because this is obviously set in a kind of hypothetical Third World War. Now, contextually, if you wanted to take a bit of theory here, you could think about the notion of Freud's theory of the psyche and the way that our behaviours are driven by three areas of the psyche: the id, the ego, and the superego. And the part of Roger's id, which is hurt the kid, you know, be violent, take out your aggression, that is stopped. That is pushed down by his id and his superego that are really, really aware of the notion of laws. The ego kind of balances these ideas, and the superego says, no, that's wrong. The ego kind of manages between the two. And at this part in the book, the darkness is there, but he just keeps it in check because he hasn't yet let go. Interestingly, again, it's not on the slide, but have a little look in your books. It's all in chapter 4. Straight after this, he whips himself round the trees, and for a second he gets really like out of breath and his eyelids are fluttering. You can see that he's having this sort of moment of adrenaline, and he's excited by what he's almost done, which is obviously a real warrior. Okay, developing now as we go. As Jack becomes more powerful and the hunting becomes more prevalent, an opportunity for violence, we start to see the desire for cruelty and his lack of empathy. Now, this first quote comes from the game where they all act out killing a pig. Robert was screaming and struggling with the strength of frenzy. So this is where it started out as a game, them sort of pretending to rush him, and then it got serious. Jack had him by the hair and was brandishing his knife. Behind him was Roger, fighting to get close. Now, it's interesting here, Roger's not the only one. So Roger is one of many that is sort of overtaken by his desire to hurt Robert in this moment. They suddenly no longer see him as a human, they see him as a pig. Now, the reason I've popped this in here is because this is quite an alarming moment of foreshadowing for this. When they kill the pig, the mother pig, in that very, very brutal scene, Roger's act here is so cruel and is so torturous, where Roger found a lodgement for his point and began to push till he was leaning with his whole weight. The spear moved forward inch by inch, and the terrified squealing became a high-pitched scream. So, it's a horrible, horrible quote. I hate writing about it. But Jack is overcome with his bloodlust as well. He slits the pig's throat. That is a way of killing the pig quite quickly. Roger, this is about humiliation, control, power. It's a form of torture, and it demonstrates his inability to empathize with any other living creature, human or beast. And this little moment is really important when we look at later behaviors with Piggy. Okay, it's important that we look at the developing relationship between Roger and Jack, because if you remember at the beginning, it said inner avoidancy and secrecy. He kept himself to himself. There's this idea that he doesn't really make connections until he sees something in Jack that he likes. He says, this is in relation to Castle Rock, when they've separated off, and he sees that Jack has arranged this boulder with a lever, and so he sees that it's a weapon that would be capable of doing real harm, foreshadowing much, and he says he's a proper chief, isn't he? It's like, yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you run the show, not democracy. You do it through threats of violence and fear. Now, I didn't put this in the quote, but there's a little moment there. He's wobbling a tooth when he says that. He's literally just loosening a tooth like this. Okay, it could just be that hygiene is so bad on the island, there's no dental care and his teeth has gone bad. It's possible. Or it's a milk tooth. in which case Golding is reminding us how young he is as he considers how appropriate Jack's choice of weapon is. Likewise, when I can't remember which chap it is he's talking to, one of the kids that's on guard, tells him about how Wilfred has been tied up ready for a beating, but there is no real reason why that we can ascertain. No one knows why Wilfred has been tied up for a beating, he just has. Roger receives this news as an illumination. Oh, there it is, he ceased to work at his tooth. Ha! And sat still, assimilating the possibilities of irresponsible authority. Roger and Jack aren't friends. Roger realizes what Jack's leadership can give him, that he will have free rein for violence, and it is an illumination to him. This is that moment where all of those dark desires that Golding has been presenting can just come out and come forth, because what a perfect way of describing Jack's power: irresponsible authority. Now, if you look at this contextually, Ralph's leadership was a democracy, yeah? Jack's leadership is a dictatorship. That's what Golding is trying to present here. He's reminding us of these external ideologies. And Roger is a character who represents someone who will benefit from that rule of terror and fear. Some people say that Jack actually symbolizes Hitler, and Roger is a representative in some ways of Himmler, a sort of second-hand man. So that's somewhere that you can take it as well. And because of these rules, Roger becomes the executioner, because Jack also realizes what Roger offers him. So I mentioned before about why the pig and that horrible moment with the pig was important. And that is because in the moment, just before he kills Piggy, how he sees him. So look at the way that Golding uses third person limited narration. He's using third person, but it's very clear that this is what Roger sees. This is Roger's perspective. Ralph was a shock of hair and Piggy a bag of fat. Okay, that's the only way that he sees Piggy. Now, believe it or not, in that chapter where they kill the pig, those pigs are described as bags of fat. So in that moment, to Roger, Piggy is nothing but a pig. He's completely and utterly dehumanized, which is why, with that sense of delirious abandonment, oh, that quote should be on there, sorry, delirious abandonment, put it on a flashcard. He presses on the lever and the boulder tumbles down, striking Piggy a glancing blow from chin to knee, the conch exploding into 1,000 white fragments and cease to exist. Now, I know that doesn't have Roger in it, but he did that. Yeah, that was Roger. Roger destroyed the last kind of symbols of logic, reason, rationality. The conch was a symbol of democracy, freedom of speech, civilization. It goes hand in hand with Piggy, and he has destroyed them both. So wow, what a kind of moment showing how important Roger is in this plot. But look what Jack says. See, that's what you'll get. I meant that. Did Golding write Jack instructing Roger to kill Piggy? No, he did not. Roger did it off his own back because he wanted to, but Jack knows how powerful it is, so he claims it. Roger doesn't want power, that's fine. Yeah, he just wants to hurt people, and so Jack can use that to his benefit. And then look at the ways that he is described from this point on, when he becomes Jack's executioner. Roger advanced upon them as one wielding a nameless authority. So that's Sam and Eric being described there, where he's about to torture them. In fact, he tells Jack that he's doing it wrong. That's not how you do it. And there he appears, ready to do it for him. The hangman's horror clung round him. Note the way that that suggests that this role will not leave him now, and no matter what he does, it's there, almost like the stink of it, of death surrounding him. And then one of the most threatening lines in this novel from Golding, that Roger sharpened a stick at both ends. That's Sam and Eric's dialogue, and then Golding gives it to us in the third person limited narrative of Ralph in this moment. Roger sharpened a stick at both ends. So the intention to not only kill, but to put Ralph's head on a stick is there. It is no longer about killing in the moment. This is now moving towards premeditation. So Roger really is a truly dark character in this novel. And Golding, I think we can all agree, was a fairly dark man, and he did want to say what is out there in the world is dark and scary, that every person has this capacity. If you were looking at it from a psychological perspective, you might look at Roger's inability to connect with the world around him and his complete lack of empathy, and you might think about him having sociopathic or psychopathic traits. That's fine. Try and use that phrase. Don't just go Golding presents Roger as a psycho, because it's just informal and it's too sweeping. If you want to go down that kind of psychological aspect, talk about traits and hedge it with a perhaps in terms of Golding's intentions. But Golding, without doubt, uses Roger, a small child who is the most sadistic, the most brutal, the most cruel, to say, look how scary mankind can be. And on that note, sorry, it was a bit of a heavy one to start with Lord of the Flies, but hey ho. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any questions about Roger or anything else to do with the Lord of the Flies, do just give me a shout in the comments and I will get back to you. That's it from me. Happy revising.